Once upon a time in Shen Prefecture, a woman named Su was washing clothes by the river when she stepped onto a giant rock. Suddenly, she noticed a strand of moss growing on the edge of the rock. It swayed with the water's ripples, charmingly winding around the rock in 3 circles. As Su gazed at the moss, she found herself strangely moved. At that moment, something seemed to fly out of the moss and entered her body. However, Su remained unaware of this occurrence. When she looked at the moss again, she felt that the previous liveliness had disappeared completely. She quickly finished washing her clothes and returned home. To her surprise, after returning home, Su realized she was pregnant. Months later, her belly grew larger, and her mother eventually noticed her daughter's condition. In private, she questioned Su about what had happened. Su then recounted everything that had occurred during that period. Although her mother was shocked and thought it unlikely, she believed that her daughter wouldn't lie about something so important. An unmarried young woman being pregnant would surely lead to trouble if discovered by the villagers. Even if her daughter's words were true, who would believe them? For safety's sake, they decided to keep the matter a secret. Su's mother kept her hidden at home and prevented her from going outside. During the time of pregnancy, her mother clung to the hope that her daughter had merely encountered something impure. She sought the assistance of virtuous monks to exorcise any evil spirits. However, their efforts yielded no results. After some time, Su gave birth to a son. Her mother believed that this matter couldn't be revealed and decided to abandon the child. However, Su disagreed. After all, this was her own flesh and blood conceived over 10 months. She resolved to secretly raise her son and pledged that she wouldn't marry, devoting herself to raising the child. Yet, being an unmarried mother brought societal condemnation. Until her son turned 7, he only saw Su and his grandmother, and no one else. On his 7th birthday, he suddenly told Su, "Mother, I have grown up. Hiding like this is no longer a solution. I think it's better for me to leave here. This way, I won't cause trouble for you." Su was taken aback. Where could such a young child possibly go? He continued, "Actually, I am not of human descent. I can fly through the clouds and traverse the world. There's nowhere I can't go." After pondering for a while, Su realized her son was truly exceptional. Tearfully, she asked when he would return. He replied, "I came to be with you to serve and protect you, Mother. When the time comes for you to depart this world, I will naturally return. During this time, if you need anything, you can find and take it from the cabinet where I am hidden." With that, he knelt and bid his farewell to his mother before departing. Su was heartbroken and rushed after him, but her son had already vanished. True to her vow, Su kept her promise. She and her mother continued to live together, but their circumstances grew increasingly difficult. One morning, they found themselves without any food to cook. Su sighed deeply in despair. Just then, she remembered her son's words before he left. She hurriedly opened the cabinet and found rice, flour, oil, and salt. With this discovery, their food problem was finally solved. From then on, every time Su encountered difficulties, she could find the items she needed in the cabinet. It seemed that her son's words were coming true. After 3 years, Su's mother passed away due to illness. Su used items from the cabinet to make all the necessary arrangements for her mother's funeral. One could say that this cabinet was like a treasure trove or a chest of wonders. After her mother's death, Su lived alone and avoided contact with any men. She continued this way for 30 years. One day, a neighbor came to borrow fire from Su. Seeing her sitting alone in an empty chamber, they engaged in conversation before leaving. Unexpectedly, after a while, the neighbor witnessed a rainbow-colored cloud surround Su's house. In the midst of it was a woman dressed in splendid attire. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was Su herself. The colorful cloud hovered over Su's house for a while, slowly ascending until it disappeared. The villagers were perplexed, not knowing what had happened. Curious, they entered Su's house and discovered Su, adorned in resplendent attire, had already passed away. Learning that Su had no other family, the villagers decided to handle her funeral arrangements. Just then, a young man arrived at Su's house, graceful and handsome. He thanked the villagers for their consideration. Rumors had already spread about Su having a son, so although they hadn't seen him, it wasn't entirely surprising. After expressing gratitude to the villagers, the young man used gold and silver to lay Su to rest. He also planted 2 peach trees on either side of her grave, bowed multiple times, and then left. Over time, the peach trees grew and bore sweet and delicious fruit. They were known as Suxian peaches. The trees flourished year after year, never showing signs of aging. Government officials in the area would often offer Suxian peaches as gifts to their families.